money wide. Let's go.
Woke up feeling like a boss today. They said, boy, you know we got you, gone and do your thing.
Everyone, welcome. We have a very special guest today, Malcolm Holland, the chairman and CEO of Veritex Bank, is joining us on our podcast today. Malcolm, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. All right, so we were just talking a little bit. Now I'm fascinated. Okay, you were not born and raised in Dallas, Texas, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Although I'm fully Texan, I just wasn't born and raised here. So what that means is my mom and dad are both from Texas.
Okay.
Mom's from Houston, dad's from Dallas, both born here, families here, roots are here. Mom went to St. John's in Houston, and dad went to Island Park in Dallas, and they both went to SMU and then met at SMU and got married, and then they headed out to Hawaii when my dad was in the service in 1958. He's in the Air Force and finishing his time with the Air Force, and they got out there at Hickam, and they never left.
They never left. They found paradise.
They found paradise, and they never left. And our families never, none of their families ever came out there and migrated with them. So they were out there kind of along their own, and they started up their life and had 4 kids. And I was born there.
So you were born and raised there, right?
Yeah, I'm Hawaiian.
You're Hawaiian. So 0 to 18.
0 to 18.
And where in Hawaii?
So most of the time was in Honolulu.
Okay.
But we lived on Maui a couple of years. My dad was a lawyer by trade. When he left Dallas, went out there, took the bar, though it didn't pass it. And in Hawaii.
So your dad did he take the bar in Texas first?
He took the bar in Texas first, passed it, and then he goes out to Hawaii, couldn't pass it. And the thing was, they made it so difficult because everyone, they were to go out there, and they wanted to restrain people from going out there.
Yes.
And so he didn't pass it the first time. So he said, all right, whatever. And he went and got a bank job.
Your dad was a banker?
He was a trust banker to start, and then he got into commercial banking.
I did not know.
Yeah. And so you fast forward the story, when I got out of SMU, he told me one thing. He says, whatever you do, don't go into banking.
And as a true child, right, of any parent,
you do whatever
you don't listen.
Right.
You don't listen.
Do the opposite.
Awesome. All right. So you grew up in Hawaii, and you went to SMU.
Show up at SMU in 1978.
But hold on. Did you look at other schools, or was SMU where you were going to go?
So, yes, I looked at other schools. There were 3 other schools. So I was a tennis player growing up. That's all I did.
Okay.
And I wanted to play tennis in college.
Okay.
And so I had 3 offers to go to smaller schools to play tennis. But I really wanted to go to the University of Colorado.
Okay.
In Boulder. That was where some kids from Puno, my high school, were going, and we vacationed in Colorado every summer. My dad made sure that we got off the island. There's some people in Hawaii that have never been off the island, and so that's kind of a deal. And so anyway, we were up there. I was familiar with Colorado, and I go, this is a cool place. And I did not get in to University of Colorado.
You didn't get into Boulder?
I did not. School isn't my thing.
Were you focused too much on tennis? Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
And social activities. But my dad and mom, since they went to SMU back in the day when you could call somebody you knew and said, hey, you need to get this guy in, he pulled 3 or 4 strings. And next thing I knew, I was into SMU. And my dad said, that's where you're going.
And was the plan to play tennis there? Because they were pretty good, right? I mean,
really good.
Yeah.
They were one of the top 10 teams in the country. I wrote a note to Bill McLean, the coach, and says, hey, you look at my resume. I'm the #1 player in Hawaii, and I played national circuits, blah, blah, blah. He goes, that's great. We don't have room for you.
Oh, not even come walk on and try out or anything?
Nothing. And there's a funny story, if you ever want to get into
Let's go. Let's go.
So Bill McLean's the coach.
Okay.
So he's there 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year. He gets fired. And they bring in a coach called Dennis Ralston. We all know Dennis Ralston. He's a famous player.
Yeah.
Played really good doubles player. And so my junior year, I went and said, hey, Coach Ralston, can I play? He goes, sure, come on. So I walked on as a junior.
Okay.
And I played for about a semester and got hurt. That's where my back kind of went out. So I quit playing. And by the way, I wasn't good enough to play. But he let me on and he let me play. Fast forward, I'm the president of Lakewood Country Club in the mid-'90s, one of the youngest presidents they've ever had.
Okay.
And the tennis guy is Dennis McClain, who was the coach at SMU that didn't let me play.
McLean is
Bill
now
McClain, not Dennis.
right. So
Glenn McClain, he's now the tennis director at Lakewood. And I'm the president. And we're having a little trouble with him. And so the then manager calls me and goes, "Hey, we're having some trouble. This is happening." He goes, "How would you like me to handle it?" I go, "What do you want to do?" She said, "Well, I'd like to get rid of him." I said, "Fire him."
did you ever?
I never talked to him.
You never talked to him?
No,
Never saw him?
no,
Nothing.
no. But, it goes around, comes around sometimes.
Gosh.
So-
gosh.
Gone.
Lesson for everybody right there. Be nice to everybody.
You never know. Don't
Well,
close any doors.
I feel like he could have just said, "Come on and try out."
Totally could have. But that's okay. They were really good. And by the way, he was right. I was not good enough. But, they had Jay DeLuey and Jeff Turpin and Mark Turpin. And these guys are
Yeah, they were really good.
whew,
So this is back when the Southwest Conference still exists.
totally
Right. And SMU is one of the top teams and everything.
every year.
Interesting.
Every year.
So you did not grow up playing golf?
So my dad played some golf, and he was a member at the Wild Country Club and was active there. But no, I played tennis.
You played
I
tennis?
picked up golf. As a kid in Maui, we had the 9-hole course, so I'd go drag a bag around and play a little bit, but it was all tennis.
But if you weren't playing tennis, did you go like surfing? I mean, I just feel like you're at Hawaii, you're at the beach.
I had a real healthy respect for the water. I'd do body surfing. I never felt comfortable. The waves in Hawaii are
Brutal.
brutal.
And the water's a little chilly too, right?
Not chilly, but it's powerful. And so I
Oh.
body surfed and stuff, and I never did get into the board thing.
Okay.
I was all into tennis. But
Okay.
so I picked up golf when I was in college.
So did you go, and I'm only asking this because I have, a 13-year-old and a 19-year-old, and I've been through this kid's sports. Did they have travel tennis? Did you have to schlep off the island to go play tournaments, or did you, everything within?
So everything was, the big ones were in Honolulu, and then we'd go to Maui and play there. But then if you wanted to play real tennis,
You had to go to the mainland?
go to mainland. And so 1976, I did the whole national circuit. Played nationals, national clay courts, national hard courts, everything.
Oh my,
Around, so I was gone for 8 weeks.
that's crazy.
Yeah. Played
Uh,
Kalamazoo, which is where the nationals were.
In Michigan?
Yeah.
You slept out to Michigan from Hawaii.
That
So-
was the
that's where it was.
nationals. John McEnroe was 2 courts over. We're the same age.
That's right. But he was like at Wimbledon a few years later. Right?
He was so much better. He was toying with everybody.
Really?
He's so good.
Noticeable. But different game back then. Not the power game.
Volley.
Wooden rackets.
Wooden rackets.
Big difference.
Yeah.
And what was your favorite surface back then? If we're gonna ask.
Oh, hard court.
hard court.
We didn't have clay in Hawaii.
No clay. What about grass?
There were a couple, but not really. It was all hard court.
Okay. All right. So the tennis dream is over.
Tennis stream's over.
You're in college at SMU.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you graduate.
I do. So I get there as a freshman from Hawaii.
Yeah.
I got one friend. I know one person. That's it.
But by the way, I think that's how you should go to college. You shouldn't know a whole bunch of people. It forces you to go meet people.
And for whatever reason, my parents wanted me to do that, so I did that. There's one other girl, my tennis partner, a gal. She was really good. We played tennis all growing up
In Hawaii.
in Hawaii.
And she went to
And
SMU
she
too?
went to SMU. Yeah, and we were real close. And I always thought there was our boyfriend girlfriend thing. Never.
Never.
And then my freshman year, my second week of freshman year, the very first football game, we played TCU.
Okay.
And I met Ann.
Oh my gosh.
By happenstance, I sat next to her at the game.
The second week of school.
Funny story. So my
I love
mom and dad, my mom, who's went to SMU, bunch of friends that went to Island Park. Anyway, she calls one of her friends and says, "Hey, my son's going to SMU. Give me a list of all the kids from Highland Park or that he's going to run into at SMU."
Right.
So, as you mentioned earlier, as most 18-year-olds, my mom gives me a list of 10 guys and 10 girls and go, "Hey, here's some guys and gals that are going to SMU. You don't know anybody, so look them up." And I get the piece of paper and I wad it up, put it in the trash, like
Oh my
most
God.
18-year-olds.
Yes.
Well, Ann's name was on the list.
So she's a Highland Park girl?
Yes. She's a head cheerleader, 1978.
Oh my
She
gosh.
big over there. Anyway, So I'm sitting next to her at this game, and
So she's not cheering at SMU then?
no, she didn't have all the gymnastics features that you need to have. And so we're talking, and she goes, "What's your name?" My name's Ann Marlowe. I go, "I think you're on my list." And she's like, "What? What are you talking about? What?" And I told her the story. She wasn't offended like most girls were like, "Forget you, buddy."
Well, the list, the list, you could have had different connotations on the list and everything. But
Totally.
the list from your mother sounds far more
Right.
innocent.
And we went out the next weekend.
And you've been together ever since?
Pretty much. We had,
Yeah,
a little up and down there at college, but yeah, we got married right out of college.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we married 42 years.
Oh my gosh. So I love doing the timeline thing because I'm just trying to get it all. All right. I love the story of getting SMU, not a golfer, a tennis player.
Yep.
Meet your wife first, second week of school. It's kind of nuts.
Yep.
Graduate. Now, you got married in school or right out of school?
Right out of school. So
Okay.
we had to graduate. And I was a blessed guy. My parents paid for my college.
That was nice of them.
But they had made it really clear the second I was done with college, I was
done.
on my own.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. And they gave me a check, and with my check, I went and bought a ring.
Wow.
So that's what I did with my investment.
Oh, well.
And so
Good investment.
it was an excellent investment.
An excellent investment. In case they
So I
want.
started working like right out of school because I didn't have any money.
Where'd you go work?
So I went to First City Bank. It was the only job I could get because it was 1982. Interest rates were about 18. It was back in the day.
Had the S&L crisis.
So the S&L crisis is yet to be show up.
So that's what I want to ask though. So what was your degree in college?
Finance with a minor in accounting.
Okay. And so did you think to yourself, I want to be a banker?
No,
What did you?
I wanted a job.
You just wanted a job.
I just wanted a job. And so one of my dad's buddies from Island Park,
Yep.
who's an old iBanker in Dallas, said, I'll get him a job. And he
Okay.
got me a job at First City Bank. And Ted Strauss was the chairman.
Yeah.
Annette Strauss's husband.
Yeah.
He was a great man.
Yeah.
He was a good man. Ted was a good dude. And so I went to work there as a credit analyst. And I didn't know.
You know anything about banking?
No. I knew nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. And I was a horrible student. One of my great stories today when I talk to young people all the time. And I say, I haven't looked at one person's grade point in 42 years of this business.
Really?
Because mine was 2.7, 4 years.
But not terrible. Why is that? That's not terrible. Let's all be real.
See,
I know, but it's better than C. But in college, I mean, look, there was a lot of distractions going on in college.
trust me. My point is that I learned how to grow up in college. I didn't really learn much about anything else, but I learned how to be a man and take care of myself. Because when I left Hawaii, I left.
You didn't go back.
Very seldom.
Right.
I stayed here and worked in the summers. In fact, you're on Campbell Road right here.
Yes.
1980. Okay. Summer of 1980. You were still a teen.
11 years old. I was 11 years old.
Okay. It was the hottest summer in the history of Dallas, still to this day.
Were you working construction?
Road construction, Campbell Road, Preston Road for H.B. Zachary. My dad got me that job, and I ran on that road, not right out there, for 6 weeks. And I called my dad. I said, Dad, I can't do this.
This is brutal.
This is freaking crazy. And he goes, you're going to work a little harder in school? And I said, I will never work outside again in Dallas.
Yeah. No, listen, it makes total sense.
It was brutal.
Total sense. It's funny when you were doing that. So I think a year later, okay, I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, and my parents' friends were building what's now Canyon Ranch.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
They're building that resort.
Yeah, I've been there. It's awesome.
There was 4 of us who were 12 years old, and they said, you're going to go work construction for the summer, right? For 6 weeks in Tucson, Arizona, right? And you're going to do all the work that no one else wants to do because you're 12. You really can't do anything. You're pretty much worthless.
Right.
But we want you. And the whole purpose of that was all of our parents said later was to tell you, oh, we're going to work hard in school, right? Because this is not the job
Right.
you want to do.
Yeah. It worked. It just took me a little later. I was in college for me to.
Well, they didn't force you to do it when you were playing tennis.
That's true. I played tennis also.
You were playing tennis.
That's exactly right.
Tucson, it was so hot. You had to be at work. I think the shift
We had at 6.
I think we started at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
It was 5 a.m. till like noon or
Right.
something. And that was it because it was too hot.
Good.
It was
Yeah.
brutal. It was brutal. So
Good.
you worked right down here. So
Yeah.
by the way, what did Preston Campbell look like?
So it was a
1980.
It was a 2-laner. It's a 2-laner, and we
One north, one south?
2 north, 2
Two
south.
north, two south. Okay.
What they have today is
Yep.
what we built. It's the same thing.
But this wasn't here. Like this building that we're in right now,
No.
this was not
God,
here.
No.
Was our golf course there?
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't know anything about it.
Was there any houses over there?
There were some, and there's some commercial stuff, but it was sparse. It was sparse.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So you graduate college, you buy an engagement ring, you're going to get
Yep.
married, you're going to be your credit analyst.
I'm a credit analyst at a bank, and I go down there, and I don't like it much, and it's a whipping, and
Because being a credit analyst,
it's a
what are you doing?
well. Back in the day,
Yeah, what are you doing?
you did financial spreads
But by hand.
by hand, and you calculated every ratio by hand, which meant you had to understand what the ratio meant. Today, you just plug it all in, and the computer goes, here's what it is. And you go, what does that mean? What's an accounts receivable turnover day? What's an inventory turn? What is cost of goods sold? Is it what's coming in and going out? Well, you don't know today because it just tells you what the number is. And what I've learned is you have to ask the why question. Why did this stuff happen? So that's how you understand businesses. Why does stuff happen? I can see the numbers,
Right.
but why? And so anyway, I learned, and I was there for probably about a year and a half. And then the guy who brought me there, my dad's friend, went to a bank up at Mockingbird and Central, Capital Bank, a little bitty bank. It was owned by the Kendrick family. And so he goes, come on, let's go. So I'm like, well, all right, let's go. So I went up there. Fast forward, and this is where it gets interesting. Less than a year later, he's leaving to go start a new bank.
Okay. And does he ask you to go with him?
And he asked me to go. I'm 25 years old.
Okay.
We just bought our first house of $71,000 in Mesquite.
Awesome.
Ann told me she was pregnant.
First child?
First child with Charlie.
Uh-huh.
And I'd go start a bank from scratch with a Big Chief yellow tablet and a number 2 pencil and a calculator and a book by John Sartain that said How to Start a Bank in 1985. I'm 25 years old.
So
I don't know crap. I left and I went to do it
you went to go do it.
with Misho, Mike Kowalski, and myself.
Well, that's the best time to do it, though.
I didn't know.
I mean,
I didn't
you're
know
young.
anything.
You don't know what you don't know.
But I remember when I got let go from Capital and I had a house, a pregnant wife, and no income. I was on the kitchen floor crying at 25, saying, what am I going to do?
Well, hold on. Wait a minute.
When I left Capital to go start this new company, they couldn't pay you at start. We don't have anything.
They didn't offer you anything. Zero.
He said, come start a bank. And so I was like, oh, I mean, I basically went with these guys. And so I started a bank
And so
from scratch at 25.
was the book helpful on how to start a bank?
Absolutely. We followed everything.
Really?
Yeah. Had to raise $6 million.
So the guy that you went with, he'd never done this before either?
No.
How old was he?
He's my dad's age.
Okay. So he's a little older.
Oh, yeah. He's older, but
Okay.
he wasn't a banker. He was a promoter. I learned a lot.
So what's the difference? This is a good question. What's the difference between a promoter and a banker?
A banker understands how to add value to businesses, how to partner with folks to build their businesses.
Right.
Promoters are just promoting. They don't care if things work or not. They just want to promote.
They want their promote. So do we call that in real estate? Like I sort of compare that to a developer.
Some add value, right? Some don't.
Right. I'm not saying,
Yeah.
but it seems to me.
Banking too, it's a people business. So it's who you know. He knew everybody. It's who you know.
Well,
And that's really where I kind of learned in the early days, my job is to know as many people as I can. And I always go back to, I knew one person when I got here to SMU.
yeah,
And now I know
you know everybody.
a ton. And that's been a focus of mine is to get to know people. Don't be shy, not for personal gain, just influence. Just know people.
Yeah.
You never know.
Well, it's curiosity too, right? I think you
I
have
do
to
like
be
that.
you have to be a naturally curious person, and you have to be someone that likes people.
Yeah.
It's hard to do if you don't like people, right? To force yourself to go out there,
100%.
right? But I think if you like people,
That's just how you're wired, right? It's God-given traits. I mean, people are different. And I like to interact.
yeah.
You'd like to know people's stories. I like to know what they're about.
Well, this is fast. Okay, I want to know. So, what happened to this bank?
So I worked at that bank for 10 years.
Okay, so you guys were successful.
We were successful. And the S&L crisis, tax crisis,
When did that happen?
that happened in 1988 to 1990.
Okay.
It was the worst of Texas banking. 9 of the top 10 banks in Texas failed or merged. Only one survived. I mean, it was bad. So I hear my young guys talk about the Great Recession in 2008 or 9.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
That was a gnat's ass. That was nothing.
Yeah.
88 to 90, you could have bought property on Preston Road if you just paid the property tax. They'd give it to you. It was everywhere.
So, and I don't want to take too much on it, but I don't know what happened. Why did this happen?
It's a confluence of...
And did this was this by the way nationwide, or is this mostly in country and
started
Texas?
in Texas. It ended up in Boston, up in Massachusetts. But it was a convergence of S&L crisis, tax law change, energy crisis, all at the same time.
All at the same time.
And Texas was energy,
Yeah.
tax law, S&L, blew to smithereens.
Now,
And a lot of freaking fraud.
what's the difference between a savings and loan and a bank?
Well, today you don't find a savings loan.
Right.
Back in the day, it was, they were more consumer oriented. So they did more home loans.
Okay.
They were a savings bank, very little on the commercial side.
Oh, okay. But like a bank like today, and we'll get to Veritex, but a bank like Veritex today does all those things.
We do. We're more commercial focused for sure. We don't have big consumer bank.
You don't have it because we got a lot of branches though.
Not in the
Scheme of things.
Yeah, not in the scheme of things.
Okay.
Not in the scheme of things.
All right. So
just fast forward. The bank sells in 95.
So you survived the S&L crisis.
Yeah.
Was that a time of growth for you guys because there was opportunity, or was that
We didn't get closed. They tried to close.
So it was victory.
Regulators tried to close us. We didn't get closed. So we moved on. We sold it 10 years later. I went with that bank. That was the Bill Murphy days, Fidelity Bank. We sold that bank in 98 to what is now PNC, Compass, whatever.
Okay.
I stayed there a couple of years, and then I went to a bank called First Mercantile Bank in early 2000s.
Now, after you started your own bank, sold the bank, when you would go to another bank, are you going in the beginning? You're starting the bank with them, or are these established banks are already out there?
Established banks, and then I moved in to help run them, grow them, and then we sell them again.
Is that what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I started learning if you want to make any money in this business, that you need to acquire, buy, sell. The big mistake I made, and it was called East Park National Bank, the one I started in East Dallas,
Okay.
is I didn't have much equity. But I didn't have any. I was 25. I didn't have a pot to pee in.
Yeah. How would you have any equity?
Right. But what I learned was when we sold the bank, I go, oh my gosh, that guy put in money. I got to own equity. And so that was my 35. I was like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore until I start owning something.
Gotcha.
So the next one, I said, I got a little equity. And the next one, I got a little more equity. And the next one, I got a little more equity. And there's a story in that. So anyway, I get to First Mercantile in 2000 and run that bank for about 2 years. And then Colonial Bank Group comes in and buys us.
Okay.
And from a bunch of different circumstances, I ended up running Colonial Bank Group for Bobby Louder in Texas. It was a regional bank out of Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay.
So I ran Texas, made him truckloads worth of money. We were grinding. We were killing it. And in 2009, the bank failed. And it failed because of a very sophisticated mortgage fraud in Ocala, Florida.
What?
Taylor, Bean, and Whitaker. Lee Farkas.
I've heard these names.
Yes, you have. And go look him up.
Yeah.
American Greed.
Uh-huh.
There's a whole episode about it. Go look at it. You being in the business,
Sure. Yeah. I want to know.
you need to go see this. And Lee Farkas was a bad guy.
Lee
He went to jail for a long. In fact, he's either died or still in jail. But anyway, it was $1 billion mortgage fraud perpetrated.
And did it touch a lot of different banks, or just you got
Many Bank of America. It touched, and he did it for years and years at Colonial. So anyway, that's a whole nother story. Excuse me. So anyway, we got closed in August of 2009.
I see. Okay.
So Ann and I had gone all in at Colonial.
Because you knew, because you learned from the other banks that you got to put equity in to make money on those.
Borrowed money as we were going down to invest and bought stock. So I learned another valuable lesson.
Don't leverage.
Don't leverage stock investments. Another valuable lesson I learned was my income. I've had a bunch of deferred income. You could defer your income and your bonus.
And did you roll that and buy stock? Is that what you did with it?
No, it was just deferred income. So it was invested in whatever was in cash.
Okay.
But when companies go out of business, you know what happens to deferred income?
You don't get it back.
Zero.
You don't get it.
So I had borrowed, I had deferred income, and I had a ton of stock because I'd been there since 2002. So we got wiped out. 49 years old, wiped out. So that day in August of 2009, BB&T buys the bank from the FDIC.
Because they don't really let banks go under, right? They got to get acquired.
They got to find somebody to acquire it. So BB&T was the winning bid. So on that Friday, they came in, and I was the guy in Texas. So they did this formal legal transfer from a broke bank to BB&T. And so I was the guy. So the guys at BB&T said, listen, this just happened. Give us a week. We'll get back to you. We want you to keep doing what you're doing. So I was like, okay. So the guy came in, he flew in, he goes, all right, here's the deal. I told him, I said, what's your story? I said, well, Ann and I got wiped out. He goes, I've done my research, and here's what we want to do for you. We want you to run Texas just like you were. We're going to give you the capital to go keep doing what you're doing. We're going to pay you X, and here's your payout, which was way more than I was making. It's the best financial job I'd ever had.
Okay. Sounds pretty good.
Sounds good. So I went home to Ann. I go, hey, man, look, I got a job, but we weren't sure. We're going to keep doing this and this. I said, but something doesn't feel right, but let's keep going.
Okay.
So I'm a month in.
Oh, no.
And I come home to Ann. I go, honey, can't do this. She goes, what do you mean? I said, I can't do this. I can't work for these people. They're a fine bank. They have the way they're going to do things. That's the only way they're going to do things. To the point where you had to wear a name tag. I don't wear name tags.
Did you have to wear a coat and tie?
If you weren't at your desk, you had to leave a certain voicemail every morning, a new voicemail every morning. It was very crazy. And I told Ann, I said, I can't do it. She goes, what are you going to do? So here's where the story gets really interesting.
It's been pretty interesting so far, by the way.
But it gets, so Ann's mom, I loved Ann's mom and dad. They both passed away. Her mom died prior to this happening.
Okay.
And she left Ann some money. She left her $600,000.
Okay.
And that was Ann's money. It's not my money. Her mom left it to her. And so she goes, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. She goes, what do you mean? I mean, we got to live. You're 49 and we got, I said, I got to start over. What are you going to do? I said, well, I've only done banking. It's the only thing I know how to do. He goes, okay. She said, what's the plan? I said, here's what I want to do. I got to stay in the banking business. I want to take that $600,000 that your mom left you, and I want to go invest it, and we'll go get back in the banking business. Well, who are you going to buy? I don't know. What banks are on your list? I don't know. She goes, let me get this straight. You want to take all the money my mom left me. You want to go into the back end of the banking business. You don't know if you're going to buy something, start something, and you just walk away from the biggest comp package that you've ever got in your career. I said, yep, that's what I want to do. And she goes, I'm in.
Wow. Wow.
True story.
Oh, I believe it.
It still chokes me up.
Oh, yeah.
Her mom, I loved her mom, but she always wanted to invest in me. She goes, you're a special young man. She said it all the time. And she had to die for her to do that.
Ugh.
But, you know, I'm appreciative.
Oh.
And appreciative and believing in me. And so we started scratch.
So you have a little bit of money, and we started from scratch. You go buy a charter?
So what do?
You go buy a bank charter?
So I had 3 people came with me. Susan Cottle, who's still my assistant.
Yes, yes.
Jeff Kessler, who's with me until about a year ago.
Yeah.
And Angela Harper, who's still with me today as my chief risk officer. And I went to them, and they were all at Colonial, and they lasted a few weeks, and they go, we got to get out. So they left and said, what are we going to do? And I sat around the table. I go, okay, I got $600,000. I said, how much do you need a month? I said, not what you want to make. I don't want to know what you want to make. How much you need? Well, I need $3,200. I go, great. You need $2,700. Okay, you need $1,800. All right. Okay, guys, I got 9 months. I can pay you for 9 months, and then I run out of money. Because I also have to invest in the business, and I have to eat.
Well,
So
you don't have office. You don't have a bank. You don't have a chart.
So I got a little space over in Walnut Hill. They all went back to their spouses and said, this is the opportunity. And I'll go, I'm in. I'm going with Malcolm. So we had an office not much bigger than this. We had 4 people in it.
Yeah, but what were you doing?
I said, we're going to go find a bank to buy.
You're going to find
Start raising money.
Okay.
I'm going to find a bank to buy.
Okay.
Fast forward September 10th of 2010, we closed our first deal.
So it
took 1 year. I had a little bit more than 9 months.
barely.
Because I knew it was going to happen. So I'd raised $23 million to close that first deal.
That's pretty good.
That's all I did.
Yeah.
1 year, I raised money and got this application and found this bank. And
what was the name of the bank you found?
It was called Professional Bank. Had a branch in Lakewood, Park Cities, and Garland. And I paid more than I should have.
Yeah, but
It didn't matter.
you needed a
It's
charter.
charter.
You needed a charter.
Just get me in the game.
Right.
I can do this. Get me in the game.
Yeah.
That was 15 years ago.
Wow. That's a crazy story.
It's a crazy
That is a
story.
crazy story.
It's a crazy story. And so today we're the 95th, 94th largest bank in the United States.
Well, so that's nuts, because what I just think about is my relationship with you, and that we met. So if you got going in 2010, you and I in 2011.
For sure. It was the next year.
Yeah, it was the next year.
It was within the first year of our business
Oh my
that
God.
we met.
I didn't even
You
know.
where it was?
I didn't know.
I was still in Walnut Hill. I still had executive office in Walnut Hill.
Yeah.
When we started.
But you guys had some branches.
I had those 3 branches. That's all I had until I closed them. So within 3 months, I had another bank under contract.
Yes.
Within 4 more months, I had another bank under contract.
Yes.
So about 3 banks in the first 13 months.
Because you definitely had 1 or 2 on Preston Road.
I did. Those were the Fidelity banks.
So this is the funny story that
Bill Cawley, he was a big investor there. Bill Murphy, Pat Bolin, that was their bank.
Well, the whole reason I didn't know, I knew you were at Veritex Bank. I didn't know the story, right? The whole reason I talked to you, right? Because we were sitting on a board together at the Honors Club, Columbian Club, and then we changed to Honors Club.
Yeah.
You were the president of the Texas Golf Association. You were the TGA, or you were the executive director.
I was on the board.
You were on the board.
Yeah.
I think you were the.
I was the representative from the Texas Golf. I was already past president.
You were
so-
past president. Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember I was driving. This is why I came and talked to you. I was driving my son to Sunday school down to Preston Road, and I passed 2 branches of Veritex Bank. Okay.
Okay.
And I,
One at Royal,
yes. Yeah.
and the other one was probably Beltline.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was coming from up north.
Both of them are closed now.
Right. I know. One got destroyed by the tornado.
Tornado got
Yeah.
That's right.
But I remember driving down, and this is when I'm starting my business, right? I'm really trying to grow my business to make it more than a side hustle for me,
Yeah.
right? And I remember seeing these 2 Veritex branches, and I was like, and I'd already been turned down by about a half dozen banks trying to get a line
One
of credit.
specific one.
Oh, well, a lot. But I remember coming to you and saying, I said this to you, I don't even remember. I said, do you know what I do? And you're like, you're a lawyer. You practice law. And I said, no, I go, I'm not a lawyer. I go, I'm really a banker. And you said, what? And I explained to you what I was doing. And you said, well, come to the bank and talk to me. And our board meetings were either on a Monday or Tuesday. And I came and saw you the next Monday or Tuesday. And it was you and Tony and Murphy.
Yeah.
And I went and met with the 3 of you. And I took my old partner, Merrill.
Oh yeah, Merrill. I remember that.
That's right. And we came and met with you. And the next week, you guys told us you approved us for $1 million line of credit.
Yeah.
And no one had given us $1 million line of credit that we could use, right?
Yeah.
It just didn't happen. And so that was
11.
Well, it's 2011 or 2012, right?
Yeah.
It was right around there.
One of those.
Because we started with $1 million
Yeah.
with you.
I remember.
I didn't know how new you were though. You were 2 years old or a year and a half old.
Right. But I've been in the industry since
You've been in the industry
a
forever.
long time.
But Veritex was
brand new. Nobody knew who Veritex was.
yeah.
Nobody. With textile company, tech company,
Yeah.
nobody knew us.
How did you? Because what was the name of the bank you bought?
Professional.
Professional. And so you said, all right, we need a different name.
Well, I'd started Veritex Holdings
Oh, you did.
because I was trying to buy, before Colonial went down, I tried to buy the Texas assets out of Colonial Bank Group that I'd built. And it didn't work out, and that's a whole nother story.
So you created the entity.
I had the entity, and so Veritex is Veritas, truth,
Right.
Texas, truth and Texas banking.
Gotcha.
Made up name.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's made up name.
So that's, and then for everybody that doesn't know, right? So now I like to just, I didn't realize, yeah, your story is crazier than mine, I think. But we started with $1 million line with you.
Yeah.
And now we go ahead, we're 12, 13 years later, and we've been with you, and you've been a great partner with us this whole time. And now we're a $211 million syndicated line of credit at Veritex Bank.
Our largest syndicated credit that we manage.
Right. Isn't that crazy? That's pretty crazy.
Smart people that are honest and don't BS, and they think through what they want to do and how they want to do it, and are honest and transparent. That's how you get there.
Yeah.
It's so much about the numbers are the numbers, and we can all make numbers, at least forward-looking numbers, look however we want in any business.
Yes.
But if someone's honest, they'll tell you their struggles. They'll show you their successes. They're not greedy. Everybody has to make money. You want me to make money?
Yep.
I want you to make money.
Yep.
It's a partnership. That's how it works. It can work.
Yeah.
And where it really works is when you get in trouble. That's when it works.
Because that's when you find out the nature of your relationship
You
at
got
that
it.
point.
And it's easy to be a banker when things are kicking ass.
Yeah.
Easy. Anybody can do it. We used to call them Burger King orders. Remember the old Burger King slogan? They're gonna
Have it your way. Have it your way. That's right.
make it your way. And I go, I don't need any Burger King people. I need people that are going to add value. And then when things get tough, man, we buckle down and we go do this together.
Yeah.
It's the only way it works. Now, some people throw the keys at you.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I am a little curious about that. So the last, let's see, I would say from 20. So you were not part of the second. We'll call it the second great financial crisis because I don't want to discount what happened in the 80s, right? The 90s, yeah. So you skipped. Veritex didn't start till after 2008, right? So we're 2011, 2010.
Sure, kind of in the crisis, which is a great time to start it
That's right.
because I didn't have a time to do too many stupid things.
Well, the stupid things had already been done and people weren't doing it anymore.
Right.
So now you kind of get a little fresh start, but there's people that need loans and these other banks are kind of stuck, right? Because they can't lend.
I wanted to buy good, clean banks, little banks. So I paid a premium. Back in the day in 2009, you could buy any bank you want for less than book value. And the FDIC in some cases would help you. In fact, many of my investors go, "You're crazy. What are you doing? You're paying a premium in the 2010? You can go get a discount." I go, no. You don't get it. So I paid a $4 million premium in my first deal, which was 1.9 times book value. And at the time, you could buy things under book. And I had guys telling me, "What are you doing? What are you? I go, whoa, wait a second. It's $4 million. I know $4 million is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
But if all I'm going to make is $4 million, if that's going to be a factor, don't invest. Just don't do it.
But why didn't you want the discounted assets?
Because I wanted to go, to your point just a minute ago, I want to get in the market and grow. All these other guys are cleaning up everybody's mess.
You don't want to be doing the workouts and all that.
No, I wanted opportunity to grow. And so if I'm the guy out there going, "Hey, I got money over here," that's how we built our bank so fast.
Yeah.
We're one of the fastest growing companies until about 2 years ago when we kind of changed our balance sheet that there wasn't banking.
And so how did you grow your bank? What was the strategy?
One brick at a time. One Michael Hoffman at a time.
And
I had to go get a bunch of me's that could spread it out. And as you get bigger, just a big pyramid scheme. You get great people and they go out and do their thing.
yeah.
And you just add and add and add. And so that's how we did. Now we have some specialty, which now you're in a specialty group.
Yeah.
Because of your type of industry.
Right.
So we have 4 or 5 specialty groups, but it's really it's a highly relational, people on people business. That's what I'm in.
But also, I totally get that. But also, aren't you, I mean, look, you've got branches. I know we talked about not as many, right?
34.
That seems like a lot to me.
That covers Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston.
And are you looking for, not San Antonio?
I'd love to be in San Antonio.
But we're not in San Antonio.
I'm not a big Austin guy because it's hard to do business in Austin.
Yeah.
We need to have something in Austin. But I would invest. I love the hill country.
Yeah.
I love San Antonio, especially North San Antonio.
Yep.
So yeah, we continue to look for places there.
But is your strategy to grow? So it's not been based on consumer deposits or individuals. It's still commercial focused bank.
Right. But that's challenging because that's the most competitive arena. I would love to have a consumer funded bank. Those are the best ones. But I'm 14 years old. So I have a peer group of 35 banks. The average age of those 35 banks is over 35 years. I'm the youngest.
So you're a baby still.
And it takes a long time to build up those individual, because once people get to banks, sure, they do move around, but it's hard. And it's even getting harder. Now you got bill pay. Well, you want to redo all your bill pay?
We talked about that.
Not a chance.
We talked about it. It's too hard.
It's too hard.
Yeah, no one wants to
I've
start.
got a service at our banks that if you come in and move it, we'll do all your bill pay for you.
See, this is what we talk about because
Right.
I need Veritex to keep growing, right? It behooves me
For sure.
to help you grow and everything.
For sure.
But I did want to ask, was part of your strategy to grow, was it acquiring other banks?
Absolutely. So of a 12 and a half, 13 billion we have, half we bought, half we've grown.
And was it still the same type of thing when you bought your first thing, you wanted clean banks with good stuff, or were you
changed.
looking a little different?
Yeah, once we got to about a billion and a half, we bought a what we would call a like size bank, MOE, merger of equals, and that was hard. That was really hard.
Why was that hard?
Because when you come in as an equal, and by the way, there's no such thing as a merger of equals ever. I don't care what anybody says.
Somebody's got to be in charge,
Somebody
right?
has to be the king, and I was the king, and it was just they made it really hard on us. You used to bank there.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. In fact, it almost took it all out of us.
Really?
The second one we did down in Houston was a merger of equals. They were $1 billion bigger than we were,
Right.
but we were still the king
How did you get to be the king on that one?
because
You're allowed to tell.
they needed us.
They needed you.
Us big time, and they wanted us. My meeting with their executive team, and by the way, they're still on my board.
Yeah.
For us to buy their bank took less than 1 hour.
Wow.
It was the coolest way to. I went in there. They called the meeting. I was in Houston. They said, "You need to come meet with us." I figured out what it was about. I didn't want to have anything to do with them. They had some credit issues, and they couldn't buy, they couldn't sell. They were kind of stuck. And I sat down with the chairman, who's still on my board, and the president, and we talked for short. And they goes, "We've looked at all the banks in Texas, and you need to be our partner." And I go, "Well, I'm $1 billion less than you." And they go, "Yeah, we know." I go, "Wow." I was by myself. And I said, "Okay, well, there's 3 things that are kind of non-negotiables. Let's just get it out."
Yeah.
And I'd met with him for 20 minutes. I was telling him non-negotiables. And he goes, "Well, what are they?" And I go, "Dang, this is moving along pretty quick."
Were you like, wait, maybe I should call my general counsel or call my lawyer? No.
I probably should have.
I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah.
I go, "We're going to be the acquirer." He goes, "Okay, that's good.
That's going to be the first one, right?
We're good." I go, "All right, well." I said, "The second one is we're going to be headquartered in Dallas." Because I'm great, love Dallas. And the third one's going to be the hardest one.
I'm going to be in charge.
I said, "I'm chairman, CEO.
Right.
And man, he goes, "Okay."
Wow. They were ready.
They were ready. He saw what we had built, and he goes, "This is our exit. We have to do it." And that negotiation, even to this day, there was one 5-minute interaction that Manny and I had that was not good. The 99.6% of the rest of it, perfect.
Wow.
And I didn't think they would stay on my board. That was 6 years ago.
They're still there.
They've been great partners.
That's awesome.
And it sent us from about $2.5 billion to $7 billion. And that really energized. And that's when we started making money.
And I don't even talk about this, but had you guys already gone public then?
Yes.
You had gone public.
We went public way too early.
Yeah, that
In October of 2014, I was $740 million.
why did you go public then?
Because I needed a currency to continue to execute acquisitions. The first 5 years, I could use cash. So I went and raised all this money. I raised $60 million.
Okay.
That's a hard thing to do. You do it.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
whip.
raising money
That's what you
is
do.
raising money is difficult, challenging, but super necessary.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to do it.
And so I did that, and they showed me a way that I could use my currency to buy these banks. And by the way, I didn't have to raise any money anymore. And I'm like, so I went on IPO in October of 2014 for $40 million.
But what is the trade-off though? There's got to be a trade-off though.
So there is a trade-off.
Yeah.
I hate the American business model of quarter to quarter.
Yeah.
Who in their right mind builds something of value in one quarter?
Yeah. I get it.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So I hate that part of it. What most people say they hate about it, non-financial institutions, is the reporting.
Right.
Well, as a bank, I'm already doing it.
You're used
I was doing it as a private because I have to. I'm highly regulated. I got to produce all this BS.
Right.
And so it really was no different on the reporting side.
Okay. Okay.
The benefits, I did a follow-on back in, 4 years ago, raised $165 million in an afternoon. I mean,
Kind of nice.
oh my gosh.
Kind of nice. Kind of nice.
So, I mean, I would, so people say, would you do it again? Absolutely, I'd
Yeah.
do it again.
Yeah.
And so we've been public 10 years, coming up on 11.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That is crazy.
Crazy.
That is crazy. So how's banking right now? What's going on right now?
It's good. The banks, the banking industry is fine. It's changed from when I have been in it earlier, even 10 years ago. But what's happened in my industry is 50% of the leverage is moved out of the banking industry into other debt funds, credit funds, REITs, hedge funds, you name it.
Yeah.
And so what I believe is that we boiled out a lot of the risk in the banking industry because
it's going to the private equity.
It's going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yet the old-fashioned investors are going, oh, there's credit risk, there's credit risk, and I don't think there's credit risk in the system. We're holding double the amount of capital that we held 25 years ago. Double. And we've moved out 50% of the why does a person want a credit fund instead of a bank? Well, it's non-regulated.
That's right.
They can do crazy stuff that we can't do. So where does the risk go? It goes over there. So I got double the capital. The risk has been boiled out. So the industry's fine. Yet investors go, the banking industry, this, I don't buy it. I've been waiting for a credit problem for 8 years and showed up.
Right. Well, it makes sense what you said there.
COVID?
That was a little scary.
That was brutal. Oh, man. That was brutal.
Was COVID, because look, my fear of COVID was that I don't know if I should do another loan because we're about to go into unprecedented territory our country hadn't seen for 100 years.
Yeah.
I didn't know if my investors all wanted their money back.
Yeah.
Right? Because now, are they going to put in coffee cans in their house? Because it's not safe anywhere.
Right.
And so these are the things that I was thinking. I remember I was in this hallway with our head sales guy, Eric Feldman, and we sat there and I said, I literally sat on the floor and I was like, I don't know if I should do another loan. I don't know if it's responsible.
Yeah.
For me to do this, everything.
Fair.
Is that what you got? I mean, what was going on with you guys?
Publicly held bank, we had to stay in business. So we did, and we never went home and never did any of that because we had to stay in business.
Yeah.
Because banking is the foundation of business in the United States, in the world, candidly.
Yeah.
The foundation falls apart, it all falls apart.
Right. There's no money. There's no business.
So my number one goal was my people. And so I still remember we had this moment. And, everyone's freaking out.
Oh, yeah.
All of us.
Well, you should be.
Right. Because you don't know.
Nobody knows.
So the second week, I said, all right, we're doing a town hall. I want every employee on. What are you going to do? I said, I'm going to guarantee them their jobs for 6 months, whether they show up at the office or not. You can't do that. I said, I'm doing it. And I'm guaranteeing them we're going to stay in business, and I'm guaranteeing we're going to serve our customer. So I had this all-employee meeting. You could hear the sobbing. People were like, because they didn't know if they're going to get paid, right?
But how did you know that you could meet that obligation?
Because a bank has money. I ain't running out. That's my inventory. And all I had to do is assure them. Now, I couldn't go out too far and say forever.
No, well, of course.
But I basically said, no one will be fired in the next 6 months unless you steal from this place. And you know what? It was the best. I had people on my team going, you can't do this, you can't do this. I said, you know what? Every once in a while as a leader, you just got to suck it up. And if I take this, I will take the shots. And then we did that, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And as you know, Texas was fine, and Habit was awesome, and we did fine. The story's already been written, but I'm 2 weeks in, I'm making this call.
That's my thing. That's a little different. It's easy a year later to say that, but to 2 weeks into it, going we're going to be fine, we're going to function, we're going to do this.
I believe, everyone says it's really hard to be public. You can't do this, and you can't do this, and you can't do that, and I go,
why can't
who
you?
said?
Yeah, why can't you?
Who made that rule? I mean, I tell you, it's a little personal story, and this may get to whatever. When Hamas went in and whacked the Israelis,
Yeah.
1,200 of them.
Yeah.
I called up and I go, I want to post something on Veritex. I go, what do you want to post? I said, I want you to post the picture, and it says, we stand with our friends Israel.
Right.
They go, you can't do that. I said, who said? Well, some people are going to get mad. I go, okay. But who said I can't do that?
Right.
Well, you're going to offend somebody. I go, okay. I don't like it going the other way either. But by the way, I'm going to tell them this is crap.
Right.
I got a bunch of
I'll bet you did.
But I got a bunch.
I'll bet you did.
You know how many negative I got? 0.
Right.
I had guys from New York calling me, go, what are you doing? This is unbelievable. Nobody else is doing this. I go, you do the right thing. And you might get your head whacked off for it. Okay. I'm all right with that.
I feel like that's your, if you were to write a book, right, on leadership.
I'm a leadership freak.
Right. But I think what you're telling us is like, it's not complicated. Don't overthink it, right? Do the right thing. If you feel it's the right thing, do it. And if people don't like you for it, okay.
Yeah. I got a 20-page deck. I've finally been encouraged by friends on this leadership stuff to write some stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm horrible.
This goes back to the student days.
Better in a C- in English.
Right.
I mean, I'm horrible at that, but I started writing this stuff. And so I have this 20-page deck that I do on leadership, and I'll do it. And it's biblically based, but there ain't one scripture in there.
Right.
This is just do the right thing.
It's
And
not,
here's these circumstances, and this is what you do. This is how you lead. You don't take credit for stuff. You take credit for all the bad stuff. You treat people as they want to be treated. I mean, it's simple stuff, but people don't do it.
it's kind of crazy though, right? Because to me, like, you could do that on one page. Like most of the stuff, I think, when they talk about leadership and stuff, it should be intuitive for people, right?
It's not. It's not.
Yeah. It's interesting though why it is for some people though, right?
I believe leadership's a gift, like hospitality is a gift, or administration is a gift. I believe in those gifts.
Do you think it can be taught?
So I'll answer it this way.
Okay.
I don't believe true top of the pyramid leadership can be taught. You can go to every Dale Carnegie, you can do whatever those classes are, but true leadership is God-given. Now, everyone has a leadership capacity at some level, whether it's leading their family or their group at church or their school or what. But true leadership, you can't teach it.
So,
I think it's gifted.
well,
But I'm by the way, my kids say, you're not right on everything, Dad. And you know what? I'm probably not right.
well,
This is what I believe.
but I think that's the key, right? That's what you believe, number one. And number two, that when stuff hits the fan, that's when you find out if you're a true leader or not, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's easy to be a leader, like you said. When things are going good, it's super easy to be a leader, right? But when
COVID shows up,
well,
or
look,
when you lose everything,
you've been through some,
you get through some stuff.
you've been tested a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, but that's how you learn it. And look, gives you the confidence, I
Sure.
think, to do some of the things that you're like, yeah, I'm willing to do it because, I've had this stuff happen to me. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? I'll be fine.
Like what I'm dealing with in a few other places.
That's a whole other story.
Right.
That's a whole other story. Malcolm, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
This
I
has
love
been
talking
great.
about it.
I-
Thank you.
No, but like, I love learning I've known you a long time and I felt like I knew a lot of story. I did not know the whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
One day we'll make something of it.
You should.
It's a good story. It's a story of grace and gratitude and just perseverance.
But to me, it is the story of life,
Yeah.
right? That we all go through trials and tribulations.
Totally.
I don't care if you're the most successful guy in the world. Nobody's life is like this, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have this, you can't have this.
Right.
And so, but you know what I appreciate is you talking about it because not everybody likes to share when things are not good.
But you know what? That's one of my leadership principles. Share the struggles. Let people see inside of you because they will endure themselves to you because whether they tell you or not, they've been there. And if you expose yourself to them, then they will endure themselves to you and go, you know what? It hadn't been always, easy for Mal.
Right.
Because I get those, oh, you've been an easy street. You got that big office on that building and I go, yeah, man, I'm so grateful. But do you want to know how we got here?
Right. Well, they all think, look, people, it's easy to judge on the outside.
Oh, when he didn't have a pot to pee in.
100%. 100%. look, when I first started this business, I was like you.
I
I was not getting paid.
financial statement.
Yeah.
And zero. I said, we're going to give this dude $1 million.
I'm sure some people freaked out.
Are you crazy? I said, no, just we're going, we're doing this.
Yeah. No. And I've been super appreciative ever since.
Yeah.
Because it's been a great relationship.
Total.
That's one of my favorite things about working with Veritex is that we, not to get in the weeds too much, but, you know, we do notes, right? And we do a note with you. We do a lot of notes, but we have a line of credit with you, but it's a one, usually 2 or 3 year deal, and we renew it.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing with you guys has always been sometimes the market says the rate should be this, and I get a little less. And sometimes the market should be this, and I pay a little more because it's like what you and I said.
Yeah.
Sometimes you win, sometimes, but we're trying to make it where we all win together.
The
And
only way
everything.
it's sustainable.
Yeah. By the way, I will say this. You might know your bankers called me last week and said, hey, we want to lower your rate. I said, that's fantastic. Thank you. Appreciate that. I was like, wait, hold on a sec. No, he's bro.
We got this new household pricing, and we know that we're looking at things differently. And one of the comments was, you know what? If we're making a little bit more than we should,
Share
it.
Yeah.
But now you're like, I really trust those guys.
Yeah. It's great. Well, for me, it's been easy, right?
Yeah.
I've been there a long time.
A lot of history, but
It's been great. Well, Malcolm, this has been awesome.
buddy, it's good.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for asking.
No, I was excited. Look, my guys weren't sure you'd come. I was like, I can get Malcolm to come. I go, Malcolm will come talk to me.
Sure,
I
I
feel
will.
confident. Because we're new. We're still new at this, right? So this is our first year doing this and everything. So
It's gonna be a big hit.
yeah. Listen, my mother's going to watch, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law. I mean, it'd be super exciting.
Get 1 or 2 people at the bank.
Maybe we get Ann to watch it. Maybe my wife will watch this one and everything. So
Ann will watch
it'll be fine. It'll be good.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Malcolm. We appreciate it. All right. Check us out. Longhorn Way podcast, Malcolm Holland. This will be out soon. Can't wait for y'all to watch. Thanks.
Call up Longhorn, told them let's make it rain. They said, boy, you know we got you, gone and do your thing.